Hey everyone, welcome back to another lesson here on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about how I'm doing product research just a little bit differently here in 2020. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in watching, be sure to stick around to the end. If you happen to be new, be sure to like and subscribe. Without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, so we're here in my computer. Before we get started, I hope you're all having a great Monday. It's Monday here, at least where I live. Maybe you live in a different part of the world, but yeah, it's just good. It's important to start your week off on a good foot and realize that you are in control of how you want to feel today. So, being successful, being happy, those are decisions, okay? They're not luck. It's not something you need to strategically achieve, or it just happens to fall upon you. Those are mindsets that you wake up with and say, what is my day going to be like today? No matter what the universe throws at me, am I going to be successful? Am I going to be happy? Or am I going to be lazy? Am I going to be upset? Am I going to complain? So just wanted to start off Monday on a good note, and that's just in a good mood today, so I want to share that with you. So I'm doing product research quite a bit differently. Let's just jump right into it. So I'm going to start with Magnet by Helium 10, and I'm literally just going to search one word. I'm going to search shelf. Now you could use any word here. You can use decor, you can use tool, you can use home, you could do something like kit or supply or part or big, small, right? Any one word. And what this does is it just brings you to so many ideas. So obviously we're here, we have 22,000 filtered keywords. And then I could come in here and I could actually manipulate these results quite a bit with the filters that I'm available to use right here. And we'll just start doing this, and I'll talk about why I'm doing this as we go. So maybe for like a search volume, I want to see something with just about 750 to maybe 5,000 searches or something. Then word count, maybe we want to see 2 to, no, max is fine, because actually long tails could be better, especially if they have a good amount of search volume. And then maybe competing products, I'll max out at like 500. So competing products, by the way, that doesn't mean there's 500 relevant sellers. Let me just give you a good example of one of the current products I sell and how many competing products there are for that product. As we can see here, when you search macrame shelf, there's actually 450 results. So that's the number of competing products for the search term macrame shelf. That's what that's referring to. Now, if we were to go through here, we would recognize that a lot of these are irrelevant and a lot of these are not in fact macrame shelves, but they're gonna rank for this nonetheless. Just through related keywords, and maybe someone bought it when they searched this and somehow they ended up here. And that's why they're showing up here. So even though maybe there's only 25 totally relevant listings, there's 450 results. So you wouldn't want to put something super low like 10 in here or 12, because that's not going to give you too many competing proper results. That's what I'm trying to say. Then if you wanted to include advanced filters, this is kind of like if you already know what you're looking for, you could put certain words in there. Like for instance, I could put the word macrame in there, and it would show me all the things related to macrame shelves, but that's a little too specific. And the whole point of this is to do research. So the reason I put shelf in there, obviously shelf is not a product idea, it's a market. So there's endless versions of that we can have. You could put something totally different in there. Like I said, you could put tool, accessory, like literally words like that you could drop in there. And I want you to understand that you don't have to have an existing brand like I do selling shelves to do product research this way. The way that I'm doing it differently, I guess now we could hit enter and start talking a little bit about the conceptual side of why I'm doing it differently and how it's even different to begin with. So we'll look through here. If I see anything, I'll just stop and talk about it. But what I'm doing a little bit differently is I'm really just I'm giving up my conviction that what I want to sell has to have 50,000 in sales, 100,000 sales, even 20,000 in sales. I'm really just going to a place where, it's a great book, actually, Start With Why by Simon Sinek, that touches kind of on approaching your customer, not your competitors, and building your business that way creates a much stronger business than if you're just focused on beating your competitor. So we get kind of brainwashed into seeing these markets. Like I'm sure you've seen markets for 50,000 in revenue, not that many reviews, there's tons of sellers all doing well. And it's really persuasive sometimes to think that that's what's going to happen to you. It's like this really appealing thing that looks like it's going to go well. In your head, it goes perfect. You're making 20K a month, and it just often doesn't end like that. And the way that I've kind of changed the way that I'm doing product research is I just try and find things. It's almost double-edged sword in that I'm finding things that, help scale my business, but I'm also finding things that genuinely help customers. Now, I don't want you to just sink into that cliche thing of like, oh, you should have a high quality product, you should help your customers. That's not what I'm saying, but we could actually use that as a benefit. So if customers end up on a marketplace where they're looking for something, there's not a lot of it, you're going to have such a stronger advantage if you're one of the only results there than if you were to try and sell a product where, yes, maybe there's 100 times the number of competitors, but there's 1,000 times the number of, or 100 times the number of customers, but there's 1,000 times the number of competitors, something like that, right? Or maybe it's reverse, but you get what I'm saying here. So we can simply look through things and try and find an Insta-hang rotating shelf. That's like very, very specific, right? So this customer knows what they want. They're actually, not only do they know what they want, they're secretly telling me exactly what to do. So the product idea gives you the product differentiation. It's kind of advanced stuff that we're talking about here. So if you don't get it, don't worry about it. It's not that you fundamentally don't understand the business model. It's just, there's complexities. And you start with a base level of knowledge of just kind of looking at software and looking at reviews, but eventually you start to come up with principles that you can operate by, that in the future, when you see certain things, you see certain markets that look a certain way, hey, that's very much so like the last market that I entered that made me money and makes me a profitable listing every month. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that. Now, what I really like about this market already, I could just tell you before even looking at the revenue. The customer's telling us what they want. They're saying Insta-hang rotating shelf. So we already know exactly what we need to sell. It's not generic or broad like, shelf or, hanging shelf or something like that. So Insta-hang rotating shelf. So we know that we need to have hardware included. We know that this needs to not take any additional tools that don't come with a kit. It's indicative of that Insta-hang word, right? They want it to just come out of the box, bang, Insta-hang. I think that's exactly what that means. I don't think Insta-hang is a brand. I think they're actually just saying that like a slang word almost. Rotating. So it's kind of got to be like a lazy Susan, I'd imagine. I don't know how you're going to have a rotating Insta-hanging shelf. But if they're asking for it, and it does exist, and no one's currently doing it well, there's a good chance that we'll be able to swoop in there. So let's see. Next thing I want to do is just look for proof of concept. Who's doing well with low reviews? So it looks like this one is right here. Okay, that's just a lazy Susan, like I just said. And you don't hang it at all, so I don't know. That's definitely not like Insta-hang. Again, I'm a little confused about, there's not really any products that are appealing to that. So then this is where things get a little difficult. Maybe we go do our own research. Maybe we go look up someone, clearly 1,000 people per month know what this is. And if it's not here, all we have to do is provide it, right? So maybe we go to a different website. Maybe we go on Google. Maybe we go on YouTube and look at Insta-hang rotating shelves, right? Best Insta-hang rotating shelf. See what those look like. Maybe they're on Alibaba and they're not on Amazon. It's even further a possibility. And it's possibly a really good opportunity, right? So like if no one's doing it, all you do is provide a knockout listing. You'll probably get to page one the second or third day you're selling it just from keyword ranking, and be able to sell that profitably. You kind of set your price, you kind of set the field. Now that's a little bit of a dramatic version. I tend to like having proof of concept where I see, okay, if I do this, people are going to buy it. So something just caught my eye actually right here. Modem shelf. So specifically for a modem, maybe there's a certain size to it. There's a certain kind that people are looking for. I don't necessarily think this is an accessory to another item. It's pretty broad. Modem shelf doesn't necessarily mean any one thing. As I look at it, there are a lot of random things. So what I would love to do is just peep in here. Is anyone doing really well with low reviews? That kind of tells me that, hey, look what can be done. I really like when that happens. It's not a necessity, but in this case, I'm not necessarily seeing any trend that I could pick up on. I want it to be pretty obvious what needs to be done and what should be done. And I would say if you could take one piece of advice, make decisions based off of triangulated data. Don't make decisions based off of one piece of data, two pieces of data, 3 minimum. So triangulation, of course, 3 points. provide something that you clearly know is being asked for. So in all these markets that I've clicked out of, it was kind of because of the fact that, well, I didn't exactly have knowledge of what they were asking for. That was almost too far in the other direction, that there was no competitors, no proof of concept. Therefore, I'm not really sure. I tend to like other people to do the testing of the market for me, and then I kind of come in, swoop in with a much higher quality listing and better product offer. And that's how I tend to run my business. But looking in here, I could already see 20 more things we could go over. I didn't really want this video to be too long. We've already talked about a lot of concepts here today. So maybe this is just something to get the wheels turning here. And it's relatively realistic. I'm actually happy we didn't find anything that I'm super psyched about, because it's almost fake when I always find something good. And I never like plan these videos. I never have a video or a product idea in mind, or way of finding something exactly that I found before the video. It's always organic, and this is kind of, again, touching on the motivation thing. You're not always gonna find things very easily. Sometimes it does take a little while, and that's something I've accepted as someone who does product research in 2020 as well, is give yourself a bit of a break, okay? I don't want to hear, oh, it's too hard, it can't be done. I find products all the time, okay? And you can too if you have the right strategy. Okay, I love Tony Robbins says this. If you have a recipe for a chocolate cake from someone who spent 20 years perfecting chocolate cake, how many times will that work out for you if you use that exact recipe? Every time, right? Because you have the exact recipe. So there fundamentally are certain things that you can do to get it right a vast majority of the time. That just comes down to your strategy. If you have the right strategy, hey, I'm a strategizer more than the next. If you have the right strategy, you're going to have a better outcome. But you also have to understand that even with a good strategy, something like this is not just like baking a cake. That's not a perfect analogy, because even with the right strategy, you'll get different results almost every time. There's so many ideas to look through that you're going to get a lot of different results. What I would say is, if you're a beginner doing product research in 2020 right now, trying to find your first, second, third product, try and find something where you can stand out as the best seller. Don't go into a market and be a Me Too seller. Maybe you've heard this before, but try and find markets where there's a lack of results. You're going to hear me say this again and again because it's true. If you want me to describe the theory of relativity to you, it's going to be the same description every time, because it's the same theory. So the theory can never change, right? Like, I've locked onto something that works, so I'm going to keep telling that to you until that point gets across and you shift perspective and see. I'm saying, so I hope any one of you don't need to, necessarily have all of the resources. You don't even have all the money, right? I started this business with $1,300. I by no means bought a $5,000 course, and that's not what it takes to succeed here. It takes a certain level of common sense and a certain level of persistence, but that's about it. So if you have those two things, you definitely succeed doing product research in 2020. So go ahead and do some product research after you watch this video. I'd love to see you use some of the methods we talked about here today. Try and use a tool like Magnet. It's not even traditionally a product research tool, but you can use it in certain ways to kind of manipulate it to be a product research tool like we did here today. Now, if I wasn't busy talking this whole time, I'm sure I would have been able to find a couple really good at product ideas here, but I want to get my points across as well. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you here on the channel tomorrow for another video. Thanks so much. Later.